This episode is brought to you by CuriosityStream, a subscription streaming service created by the founder of the Discovery Channel that offers thousands of documentaries and non-fiction titles from some of the world's best filmmakers, including exclusive originals. Like Adolf Hitler, The Itinerary, an immense study of Hitler's movements from childhood to the end of his life, and D-Day, Hidden Traces, that uses archaeology to uncover what was left behind in Normandy by Allied and Axis troops from helmets to bunkers. Get unlimited access starting at just $2.99 a month or $19.99 a year, and for my audience, the first 30 days are completely free if you sign up at curiositystream.com/Mark Felton and use the promo code Mark Felton during the sign-up process. CuriosityStream, the best streaming service for lovers of history. This is the story of the last German prisoner of war held in Russia, who died recently in Moscow. The subject of this tale was not a soldier or a civilian, but rather a reptile, an alligator. But it was an alligator with a fascinating backstory, one that was intertwined with Germany's wartime leader. So much so, in fact, that right up until the animal's death, it was referred to by the Russians as Hitler's alligator. This is the story of Saturn, the American alligator owned by the Nazis and taken as a war prize by the Soviet Union that outlived two totalitarian regimes to die a much-loved exhibit in the new Russia. Saturn was hatched a world away from Europe in the American state of Mississippi in 1936. Berlin Zoo was seeking new alligators for public exhibit, and that same year Saturn was captured in the wild and shipped to Germany. It was the year of the Berlin Olympics, when the eyes of the world were upon Hitler and the National Socialist regime that had come to power 3 years earlier. A rumor, possibly begun by a Soviet journalist, was that Saturn was Hitler's personal alligator, and it soon became widely accepted, though it was of course untrue. Other contemporary sources claimed that Saturn was part of a personal menagerie of Hitler's animals held at Berlin Zoo, again a nonsense, but adding further to the public's fascination with Hitler in the lead-up to World War II. However, it is almost certain that Saturn clapped eyes on Hitler as the Führer visited Berlin Zoo several times in the mid to late 1930s. The Nazis certainly had a close relationship with Berlin Zoo. Reichsmarschall Hermann Göring, head of the Air Force, used to borrow lion cubs and keep them as pets at various homes, and then return them to the zoo when they became too big and dangerous. See a link to my video on this subject in the end screen.
Komm, ja, mein Cäsar. Kommst du mich besuchen? Mucki, kommst du mich besuchen, ja? Komm. Ist ordentlich satt geworden, Cäsar. Los, schön, spring, hopp.
By the second half of World War II, Berlin began to come under increasingly heavy air attack by the British and American air forces. The German capital received 363 air raids during the war, and some were extremely heavy. During these raids, RAF aircraft dropped 45,517 tons of bombs on the city, and the US AAF a further 23,000 tons. Enormous damage was done to housing, businesses, and historic buildings, and thousands of people were killed and hundreds of thousands rendered homeless. Berlin Zoo was not spared from the destruction, with tragic results for the innocent animals. Berlin Zoo was heavily damaged on the 22nd and 23rd of November 1943. On the 23rd, 764 RAF bombers leveled huge parts of West Berlin, including around the zoo. Fires broke out at the zoo that couldn't be fought as the water mains had been damaged. The elephant and monkey houses received direct hits, and many dangerous predators like lions and tigers escaped from their bomb-damaged cages and roamed around the wrecked zoo. Around 30% of the zoo's animals were killed, including 4 crocodiles that had been thrown into a nearby street by a bomb blast and killed. They were 4 out of between 20 to 30 crocodiles and alligators killed that night when the aquarium was hit. But Saturn and a handful of other crocodilians survived and were found wandering around the city ruins, searching for food, and returned to the zoo. Following this attack, a large number of surviving animals were evacuated to other zoos that were safer from air attack. But Saturn and some of the animals remained at Berlin Zoo. They endured many more air raids until the city became a battleground from the 20th of April to the 2nd of May 1945, as Soviet forces encircled the Reich capital and fought through to the city center, street by bloody street, against fanatical resistance. By the time the German garrison surrendered on the 2nd of May 1945, Berlin Zoo, caught up in the intense street fighting, was a complete ruin. In 1939, Berlin Zoo had over 4,000 animals. By 1945, just 91 were still alive. According to the terms of the Potsdam Agreement, Berlin was divided into 4 occupation zones: American, British, French, and Soviet. On the 6th of July 1945, British troops arrived in Berlin to begin the occupation of their sector, and Berlin Zoo fell within the British zone. In 1946, Saturn came to the notice of the British authorities. With Berlin Zoo still very badly damaged, the British decided to give the alligator to the Soviets and transported Saturn to Leipzig Zoo in the Soviet zone of eastern Germany. The Red Army sent Saturn along with an Indian python to Moscow Zoo, arriving in July 1946. Saturn was, to all intents and purposes, a captured war prize. Saturn was a popular exhibit, the only American alligator then in Moscow. Locals nicknamed the beast Hitler. In the 1950s, Saturn was given a mate, Shipka, a gift from the United States, but though the pair mated many times, all of Shipka's eggs turned out to be infertile. When Shipka died many years later, Saturn stopped eating for some months, undoubtedly distressed. The luck that had saved Saturn from Allied bombs in the war also saved the alligator from several near-death experiences post-war. In the 1980s, a lump of concrete fell off the aquarium's roof, narrowly missing Saturn. Moved to a brand new aquarium in 1990, Saturn refused to eat for 4 months, almost dying. Worse was to come. The alligator was hit on the head by a boulder thrown by a drunk visitor and almost died. Tourists also pelted Saturn with glass bottles. But once his enclosure was made more secure, he was safe from such assaults. But it was evident that the old alligator suffered from some kind of animal post-traumatic stress disorder. In 1993, during a political standoff between Russian President Boris Yeltsin and the Russian parliament, military forces moved past Moscow Zoo, including tanks. Saturn's keeper reported the animal crying out at the vibrations and said that it probably reminded him of the bomb and shell detonations of 1943 to 45. Saturn grew to a maximum size of around 3.5 meters, or just over 11 feet. And weighed 200 kilos or 441 pounds. In the 2010s, Saturn again stopped eating for a long period, almost a year, but after tests and many vitamin injections, he pulled through. From 2015, Saturn was sponsored by French clothing brand Lacoste. But then on the 22nd of May 2020, Moscow Zoo reported that Saturn had finally died at the age of 84, almost double the life expectancy of an American alligator. Born in America, raised in Germany, nearly killed by the British and taken as a war prize by the Soviets, the life of Saturn was extraordinary. Reports suggested that Saturn's stuffed body will be displayed at Moscow's State Darwin Museum. Saturn may have been the last German World War II prisoner in Russia, but Hitler's alligator actually ended up as a much-loved and pampered exhibit at Moscow Zoo, the care of keepers and veterinarians evidenced by his extremely long life. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and share. You can also visit my new audiobook channel, War Stories with Mark Felton, and help to support both of my channels at PayPal and Patreon, which is always very much appreciated.